I got marked as a wanted criminal at the exact moment I saved someone's life 3 seconds earlier. Someone I never even saw. If that isn't the universe's idea of a joke, I don't know what is. I'm riding the upper mag line, my bike humming under me like a sleeping predator, neon bleeding over the wet asphalt. The elevated highway hangs above the city canal, and the air tastes like rain. And metal. Humid. Thick. Vibrating with the dull roar of traffic below. Headlights smear into white gold streaks on the slick road. The guardrails are slick black ribbons. My name's Tobias, by the way. Omega. Former illegal street racer, current respectable courier, part-time idiot. My best quality? I don't know when to quit. My worst quality? I don't know when to quit. I lean into the curve, engine growling, my visor a kaleidoscope of color. My pulse is steady, my breath even. I'm late on a delivery by 3 minutes, but my client can survive. The insulated container strapped to my back is warm against my spine. Probably some luxury food or biotech samples or a still-beating heart. In this city, it could be all three at once. A truck up ahead swerves too late to catch the red hazard sign, sloshing a sheet of water across the lane. I see the puddle, the slick shine, the microsecond reflection of an old faded lane marker, and my brain flickers. The world fractures. 5 versions of the road flash in front of me at once like ghost overlays. In one, I keep going straight. My bike hydroplanes, and I slam into the guardrail, flip over, and greet the canal with my spine. In another, I brake too hard, and the car behind me kisses my back wheel, and we both go flying. In a third, I don't like the 4th or 5th enough to register them. My gut hooks on one path, one line through the chaos, bright and thin as a wire. I lean left, just enough to shift my weight, and throttle up instead of down. The bike slices through the water. The back wheel stutters once, but I'm already compensating. Behind me, a tiny compact car hits the puddle dead on and fishtails. But because I moved, there, space for it to slide, bounce off the guardrail, and correct instead of going over the edge. I don't see the driver, just their panicked hands on the wheel, white-knuckled. But I feel the timeline I didn't take, hear the crunch of metal, the scream, the splash that doesn't happen. My vision snaps back into a single point. I exhale slowly. And that, I mutter into my helmet, is another life you'll never know you got to keep. You're welcome, stranger. That's when my wristband vibrates. Hard. Not the soft ping of a message, but the full buzz of a system alert. A red arc slices across the inner surface of my visor as the wristband sinks. Priority notice. CityNet. Red flag issued. Subject, Tobias Wren. Status, active warrant. Hostile. Detain or eliminate. The words sit there for a second, loud and hot and unreal. The city's official font has never looked so smug. You've got to be kidding me, I whisper, then snort. Can't even drink my coffee in peace, and now this? I did have a coffee. 15 minutes ago. Best one this week. Apparently that was my last moment of peace before my life burst into flames. The band keeps scrolling data, last known location, here, risk assessment, high, recommended action, full containment. A timer appears in the corner of my visor, syncing with traffic cams and patrol routes. Estimated response time, 0:14. 14 seconds until someone is on me. Panic claws at my ribs, sharp and high. I wrestle it down. Panic makes me sloppy. Sloppy gets me dead. I've been on the wrong side of the law before. I know the rhythm. But this is different. This isn't a noise complaint or a speeding ticket. This is red level. Okay, think. I growl to myself, fingers tightening on the handles. Who'd I piss off this much? Names flicker through my mind like broken neon signs, none of them good. Old racers. Ex-clients. People who don't like Omegas, who don't stay in their lane. It doesn't matter. 14 seconds is all that matters. My vision fractures again. The bike, the road, the canal, the high-rises, all split into branching paths, ghost versions overlaying reality. In one future, I pull over, hands up. Patrol drones pin me, slam me to the ground. Someone in a black uniform puts a bullet between my shoulder blades by accident. In another, I try to U-turn. A freight hauler takes me out from the side. Dead-on impact. Neat. Efficient. Only one path is clean enough to register as maybe, and even that one has a lot of pain in it. I grip that line with my whole body. The timer dips to 0:11. I flick my bike into the emergency maintenance lane, tires hissing over the slick surface, then cut. hard toward the exit ramp that veers off the mag line onto a narrower bridge spanning the canal. My engine spikes. A snarl in my bones. Behind me, far above, something dark moves across the skyline. He's there before I even know to be afraid of him. High above the highway, the city peels open into steel rafters and rooftop gardens. Billboards 20 meters tall and blinking in colors too bright to be legal. On one of those rooftops, perched like a shadow on the edge, a figure stands in a black tactical uniform, the insignia of Zero Control stark and sharp on his arm. The new head of the city's elite enforcement unit. The people they send when talking isn't part of the plan anymore. The wind whips at his short dark hair, tugs at the edges of his long coat. From where I am, he's just a silhouette against a sea of holographic ads. Cold, still, watching. Predatory the way storms are predatory. I don't know his name yet. I'll learn it soon enough. Right now, he's just the kind of alpha you feel before you see. His presence presses against the air, a subtle pressure at the back of my neck that makes my skin prickle under my jacket. He touches 2 fingers to the comm at his throat. Target is moving, his voice says, crisp and calm, bleeding into my audio feed as the city net flags my ID to every enforcement channel. I'm taking point. There's no cruelty in his tone, no gloating, just absolute certainty, and somehow, that scares me more. The timer hits 007. 2 drones rise from lower lanes like devilish fireflies, their rotors, whining as they climb, white spotlights cutting through the rain haze. They lock onto my bike's signature, and the HUD in my visor shrieks with more warnings. I open the throttle. The bridge ahead shimmers with water, a series of puddles like dark mirrors. Neon signs from the riverside reflect in every one, pink, electric blue, violent yellow. The canal below churns, black-green and restless. I aim for the narrowest stretch of road. Heart hammering in my throat. Wind claws at my jacket. The weight on my back, the mysterious delivery that was supposed to just be another run, feels heavier now, like it knows it's the reason my name went red. The first drone dives, spotlight cutting across my helmet, and barks a recorded order. Rider. Power down your vehicle and pull over. Comply immediately, or, yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, I mutter. The world fractures again. 5 bridges stretch out in front of me at once. 5 trajectories for 2 drones and 1 idiot on a bike. In one timeline, I obey. I pull over, hands lifted. I'm on my knees when I see the muzzle flash. I cut that branch away, hard. In another, I try to slip between the drones. They fire stun rounds, I seize up, the bike skids, and the world goes vertical. Nope. I scan the remaining paths, gut flipping. They're all chaos, but chaos I know. My body chooses before my brain can. I yank the bike to the side, cutting across the lane line, just as the first drone fires a warning shot that scorches the road where I was a breath ago. I jump a shallow gap where the expansion joint dips, the bike lurches, the rear wheel skids, and then lands. Behind me, something heavy slams down. I don't have to look to know who it is. A black shape drops from the rooftop level, silhouetted against a flashing ad for some luxury perfume. He lands on top of a moving freight hauler like it's solid ground, one knee bending, one hand catching the edge of a maintenance rail. The impact shudders through the truck, but he rides it out like he's done this 1,000 times. He straightens slowly, coat snapping in the wind, then takes 3 long, easy steps forward until he's at the very front of the trailer, directly above the lane I'm in. For a heartbeat, the bridge narrows down to him and me. Everyone else is just blur. The second drone swings around and places its light on him for ID. The reflection catches the sharp line of his jaw, the dark stubble, the focused cool eyes that flick down toward me. Our gazes collide. It's like driving headfirst into a wall of ice. Something in my chest stutters, like my heart forgot which rhythm it was supposed to be following. He doesn't flinch, doesn't smile, just looks at me like he can see through my helmet, through my skin, down to the bones of my intentions. The omega in me bristles instinctively at the weight of his alpha presence. Every nerve-ending screaming danger, and something annoyingly close to interest. Great. My survival instincts are flirting now. The truck hits a bump. He adjusts his stance like a dancer, balanced perfectly. The drone's audio crackles again. Commander Jared Kane. Confirm hostile pursuit. So, that's his name. Jared. He doesn't look away from me when he answers. Confirmed, he says. But keep your distance. This one's unusual. Unusual, I think, dizzy with adrenaline and irritation. That's one word for it. The freight hauler roars closer to my lane. Jared shifts, timing it with obscene precision, and then, of course, he jumps. He drops from the moving truck onto my bridge span in a smooth, lethal arc, landing at the edge of the lane I'm about to cross. The impact scatters water in a halo around his boots. I swerve left at the last second, nearly clipping his shoulder, the bike screaming in protest. A drone darts in front of me. I duck, lean so low my knee almost scrapes the ground. The drone spins out, barely avoiding my wheel, and wobbles. Watch it. I snap at a piece of military hardware that definitely does not care. Behind me, I hear Jared's low voice over the net. That rider just dodged a lock at a speed we don't have in the records. I repeat, this target is not standard. His assessment slides over me like cold water. Not standard. Gee, thanks. Tell me something I don't know. My pulse spikes and another fracture of futures slices across my vision. Me getting pinned between the railing and the drone. Me crashing into the hauler. Me plummeting into the canal. All bad. All ending in blood mine. Only one path stays bright. Forward. Hard left at the brake and the guardrail. Then down into the lower ramp that even the maps think is closed. I grip the handles, jaw tight. Fantastic, I think, as I rocket toward that invisible line, away from the Alfa, who never misses his mark. My hunter's not only relentless, he's also ridiculously good-looking, as if I didn't have enough problems already. By the time I ditch the bridge and dive into the city's underbelly, my lungs are burning, and my brain is doing that fun thing, where it keeps replaying one moment on loop, Jared's eyes on me, cool and sharp, like I'm a puzzle he fully intends to solve. I take the emergency slip ramp hard, leaning until the bike shudders, then shoot. Down into a lower level that hasn't seen regular traffic since before I was born. The neon thins. The air gets thicker, sour, with old rain and rust and something electrical. An access gate looms up out of the gloom. The locks on it are a joke. Ancient mechanical clamps that clearly haven't met a desperate Omega with a wrench before. I skid to a stop, rip off my helmet, and shove sweat-soaked hair off my forehead. Okay, sweetheart, I tell the gate. Open up for me, and I'll name my first kid after you. 3 smacks with the wrench. A kick in just the right tired spot, and the lock drops with a clunk that echoes way too loudly. I wince, drag the gate up just high enough, and push my bike under into the dark. The old tunnel yawns ahead like a throat. This used to be part of the city's first metro line, back when trains were steel beasts and not quiet little mag ghosts. Now, it's just a forgotten vein, fluorescent lights half dead or flickering, rust-eating. The metal struts, water dripping from somewhere overhead with the slow patience of time. The smell hits me first, damp concrete, mold, old oil, and that faint, metallic tang that always makes me think of blood even when it isn't. My footsteps, and the roll of the bike beside me, boom in the narrow space. Each sound comes back delayed, like another version of me is walking just one pace behind. I hate it down here. Up top I know the angles, speed, light, line of sight. Down here, shadows have layers and corners hide teeth. But the surface is crawling with surveillance now, and my band is still pulsing with that accusatory red heat against my wrist. I glance at the tiny screen. Status, active warrant. Pursue level, priority, right, I mutter. Wouldn't want anyone to forget. My pulse spikes again, and the world obligingly shatters. The tunnel branches 3 ways ahead, the left and right spurs curving just out of sight, the main shaft continuing straight. Overlaid ghost images flare in front of my eyes, stacking like transparent film. Path 1. I take the left tunnel. A minute later, I hit a dead end and turn back, just in time to watch a stun round punch into my chest. Path 2, I go right. There's a drop where the floor gave out years ago. My leg breaks when I fall. I'm still trying to stand when a drone finds me. Path 3, I stay straight. A second enforcement team is already there. I run face first into a shock baton, and forget what breathing is. All bad. All ending in pain or cuffs or worse. An acid taste pools under my tongue. My gift is really generous like that. Never the winning lottery numbers, just 6 different ways to die creatively. I squeeze my eyes shut for half a heartbeat, breathe through it, and let the visions flicker and fade. Pick your poison, I whisper. The left tunnel's death comes with the least certainty. There's a sliver of noise. Around the edges, fuzzy, like something about that route is less fixed. I've learned to trust that fuzz. I adjust my grip on the bike, turn left. The water here drips faster, plinking into shallow puddles. The overhead lights are worse. One is out completely, making a jagged shadow zone I have to step through, my skin crawling like someone's watching. My boots clap against cracked concrete. The sound travels and comes back wrong. You're just jumpy, I tell myself. The small hairs on the back of my neck disagree. I'm 3 steps into the darkness when I hear it. A footfall that is not mine, light, deliberate. Behind me. My hand is on the knife at my belt before I consciously decide to reach for it. The blade comes free with a soft, reassuring slide. I spin, heart ramming my ribs, every nerve screaming. He's just there. No dramatic entrance, no clatter of armor. One moment the tunnel is empty, the next, Jared is standing a few yards away, half in the gloom of the last working light, as if the shadows themselves decided to arrange into an Alfa. His zero-control uniform looks wrong here, too sharp for all this rust. Black tactical fabric clings to long lines of muscle, plates and holsters catching the thin light. His dark hair is damp from the humidity, a few strands fallen over his forehead. His eyes are as steady as they were on the bridge, dark and assessing. He stands like he expected me to choose this path. Which, yeah, okay, creepy. I keep the knife between us, blade low but obvious. My bike is still at my side, half a shield. My pulse is loud in my ears. How did you? I stop myself. I don't actually want to know. You know what, never mind. Of course the city's golden attack dog knows all the shortcuts. A corner of his mouth almost twitches. Almost. Dropping into an obsolete sector was a smart move, he says instead. His voice carries easily in the tunnel, a smooth baritone that somehow makes the rust feel self-conscious. Most people head for the transit core, or try to vanish into crowds. I'm not most people, I shoot back. Also, kind of busy being framed right now, so if we could skip the career advice. You keep choosing the least predictable routes. His gaze flicks from my face to my shoulders, down to the angle of my feet. Measuring. Patterns like that are hard to read, even with full surveillance. Yeah, well, I've always been an overachiever. I can feel his alpha presence pressing against me even from this distance. A dense, controlled weight, like standing near something with its own gravity. My omega instincts want to curl inward and show my throat and maybe take a nap under a heavy blanket. I tell them to shut up and lift my chin instead. He takes one slow step closer. I respond with a sharp, mocking half-smile and raise my knife a little. Let me guess, I say, pitching my voice into a decent imitation of his calm tone. Turn yourself in, we'll sort this out. Is that the part where I get shot while resisting arrest? Something flickers in his eyes, annoyance maybe, or the ghost of amusement. I'm not who you think I am, Tobias, he says quietly. You could make this easier on yourself. That's exactly what people say right before they make it harder, I snap. Pass. The tension between us is thick, humming, like the air before a storm. My sarcasm is working overtime to cover the fact that my palms are slick on the knife handle and my heartbeat hasn't come down since the mag line. He doesn't rush me, doesn't bark orders, or lunge. He just watches. Your record says you're a courier with a history of illegal racing, he says. You've had chances to get into real trouble. You didn't. Until tonight. Yeah, well, tonight's special. I jerk my head toward my band. Ask your system why it suddenly decided I'm red level. Or does it not tell you those things? Privacy policy and all. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. That's interesting. I know enough, he says. Enough to know this doesn't fit. Wow. I breathe. An alpha with critical thinking. Rare species. His gaze sharpens at that, like I poked something. The air between us gets 10 degrees heavier. For a heartbeat, neither of us moves. The tunnel seems to narrow, the drip of water getting louder. His scent reaches me properly now, clean, cool, with a faint edge of ozone and something like cedar under it. Calm and wild at the same time. My pupils dilate without permission. Traitorous instincts. I edge sideways, back toward the deeper shadows, keeping my bike between us like a clumsy shield. If I can just get past him, I move. So does he. I dart right, slipping along the tunnel wall, boots splashing through a shallow puddle. I'm fast. Years of running from bad decisions will do that. But he's faster. There's a rush of air, and then a gloved hand closes around my upper arm, fingers firm but not bruising. The contact is a lightning strike. Heat flares through my skin where he grips me, not just from his body temperature, but but from that damn alpha charge, the instinctive dominance curling over my nerves. My omega reacts before my brain does. My breath stutters, my muscles tighten. A pulse of both fear and something darkly hungry sparks low in my gut. He's close now. Close enough that I can see the individual flecks of color in his irises, the tiny scar near his right eyebrow. Close enough that his scent wraps around me properly, threading through my lungs with every breath. For a second, I forget I'm holding a knife. Then my brain slams the emergency brakes back on. I twist, bringing the blade up, not to stab, just to remind him I'm not prey, but he's already seen the movement before I make it. His other hand catches my wrist, firm, redirecting the knife toward the floor. We freeze like that, his grip on my arm and wrist, my back half pressed to the wall, the bike trapped against my hip, the knife angled harmlessly down. My heart is trying to escape through my throat. His breathing is steady, but his eyes have gone a shade darker. He feels my fear, my anger, the way my scent spikes with both. Something in his expression shifts. Not pity, not triumph. Something more complicated, like a calculation just changed in my favor. "This isn't how I prefer to do this," he says, voice low enough that it feels like it slides under my skin. "You're scared, and you have every reason to be. But if I wanted you dead, you wouldn't be standing." Comforting, I manage. My voice comes out rougher than I'd like. Really. Top-tier reassurance. His fingers loosen at my wrist first, then at my arm. Carefully, like he's handling a skittish animal that might bolt or bite. He lets go. I blink, thrown off balance by the absence of his touch as much as by the contact itself. I was braced for a fight, for cuffs, for a baton in the ribs. I was not braced for gentleness. I stumble back a step, knife still in hand, trying to pretend my knees didn't just consider giving out. I roll my shoulders, shake out my arm like I'm annoyed, not rattled. "Why?" I demand. "Why back off? I'm your big bad hostile. Red level, remember?" His gaze holds mine. It's not warm, but it's not cold either. Focused. Intent. "Because whoever put you on that list," he says, "wants you eliminated, not processed. And I don't work for them." Before I can decide what that means, a shout echoes from deeper in the tunnel, bouncing off the curved walls. "Hey, you hear that?" A rough voice, male, with a local accent. "They said the red flag courier came down here." Another voice, higher, excited and mean. Yeah, big bounty on his head. Enough to clear 3 markers easy. And 0 controls coming too, so we better move. My stomach drops, then tightens. Fantastic. As if one elite alpha wasn't enough. Now the rats are crawling out of the dark too. I glance past Jared into the tunnel's depths. Then back at him. "Great," I say, dry. Apparently I'm the hottest ticket in town. Something like steel settles behind his eyes. "This goes deeper than you think," he says. "And it's going to get worse before it gets better." I swallow, fingers tightening on my knife, the weight of the hunter's voice is getting closer. Yeah, I already figured that much out. By the time I hit the rooftops, my legs are jelly and my brain is one bad decision away from just shutting down and letting gravity handle the rest. The city doesn't care, of course. Up here, above the street markets and glittering shops, it looks almost beautiful. The commercial district stretches out in a patchwork of glass pavilions and rooftop gardens, neon spilling over everything like someone knocked over a bucket of colors. Down below, people wander through bright storefronts, buying things they don't need. Up here, I'm trying very hard not to die on top of their skylights. The first glass roof booms under my boots as I sprint across it, the curves slick with a thin layer of rain. Light from a giant hollow ad reflects under my feet in blue and pink ripples, so it looks like I'm running on water. Behind me, someone shouts. A stun bolt sizzles past my ear, close enough that the hairs on my neck stand up. A drone buzzes overhead. Not one of the smooth official 0 control units. This thing's patched together from scrap, a mercenary's toy. The bounty hunters from the tunnel haven't given up. Apparently the news that there's a big payout attached to my head travels faster than common sense. "Split up," one of them yells. He's heading for the market tops. Their voices cut out as I leap the gap to the next roof. Air crushes the breath out of my lungs for a second. Then my boots slam down on another glass panel, this one framed by stark white metal and framed by climbing vines from a rooftop cafe. People are eating under me, oblivious, little silhouettes through the tinted glass. "Sorry." I shout to nobody because apologizing to strangers I might accidentally kill by falling through their ceiling is apparently who I am now. I skid, catch myself, and keep going. Somewhere to my right, another set of footsteps matches my pace. Lighter than mine, but longer. Controlled where I'm just trying not to break my neck. I don't have to look to know who it is. Jared is running along the metal maintenance rail that borders the glass roofs, boots landing on narrow beams like it's nothing. He moves with the kind of balance you can't buy, only earn. Body low, weight always exactly where it needs to be. A jump, a reach, and he swings himself up onto the steel spine of a support arch, gaining height. His silhouette cuts against an enormous hollow screen advertising some luxury watch. His uniform going from shadow to sharp definition in the flicker of the ad. I hate that my first thought is he really does look ridiculous up there, like some heroic war poster come to life. That is not useful escape thinking. I focus on not dying instead. The bounty hunters spread out below and behind us. I catch glimpses of them between signs, one clambering up a fire escape, another trying to pilot that junk drone high enough to get a better angle on me. I vault over an air conditioning unit, duck under a tangle of cables, and jump again, this time landing on the angled roof of a glass atrium. The surface dips under my weight, groaning. "Do not break," I whisper to the glass. "Not today." I have a schedule. A bolt streaks toward me from somewhere behind. Before I can even twist, a dark blur crosses my peripheral vision. Jared kicks off the support beam he's on, hits the roof arch, and reaches up one hand. The bolt slams into a vent cover above him instead, sparking. He stands, body between me and the shooters for a heartbeat. The drone tries to recalculate. He doesn't shoot back at them, doesn't lunge for me. Instead, he drops down to the rail again, pacing my route, just far enough away that I can't reach him, just close enough that every time I veer toward a blind corner, he adjusts his path. At first I think he's trying to box me in. Then I notice the pattern. I head for a narrow stretch between two glass domes. The straight line is fastest, but also completely exposed to the building whose roof the bounty hunters finally managed to climb. My instinct says go. Speed will save you, but my gut is already queasy from too many near-death montages, and my wristband is still humming with that red alert. Jared shifts his weight and turns down a different rib of the structure, angling toward a higher point. The world flickers. I catch a flash of a possible future, me sprinting straight, a shot catching my thigh, glass shattering. I fall through the roof into a shower of neon-lit shards, landing on a table full of cocktails in confusion and pain. Blink, and I'm back. Jared glances at me once, quick, as he takes the higher route. It's as if he just silently said, "Don't." I swear under my breath and veer after him instead. 2 more times it happens. I aim for an access ladder that would get me down to street level faster. Jared cuts across my path from above, landing on the top of the ladder and forcing me to change direction or crash into him. Half a second later, a homemade explosive hits the rung where my hand would have been. On another roof I head for a low wall I could hop over to cut through a narrower alley. Jared moves to the edge of the adjacent support beam, and drops down in front of that exact wall, bracing a hand there. It looks casual to anyone watching, like he's just cutting off my escape. The brief vision I get when I ignore that implicit warning is anything but casual. The alley below full of smoke from a canister, 2 hunters waiting with nets and chalk batons. Me, writhing on the floor, muscles refusing to obey. When the vision fades, he's still there. Palm flat on the stone, eyes tracking me closely. I don't go that way. I hate that I don't go that way. That I listen to the man currently legally allowed to tase me into a coma. But the part of me that wants to live is louder than my pride right now. Up on one of the higher beams, he pulls ahead by a few strides. The city yawns below us, the shopping plaza, the streams of people, the endless glowing signs reflecting off every surface. From here, the glass roofs are just a scattering of colored panes. I leap from one skylight frame to another, the container on my back thudding with every landing. Sweat stings my eyes. My lungs burn like I'm inhaling electricity. On the next jump, I misjudge. The distance between the last skylight and the next building is wider than it looked when I was running at full speed. Time stretches. The ground drops away into a bright void of moving ads and impossible angles. For a second I'm weightless. Then gravity remembers me and I'm falling. Boots scrabbling for purchase on empty air. There's a sharp yank at the back of my jacket. The fall stops with a violent jolt that nearly dislocates my shoulder. My feet slam into the side of the building instead of open space. For one dizzying instant, my body hangs at an angle, half over the edge of the world, half plastered against concrete. Above me, Jared's fist is twisted in the back of my jacket. His other hand grips the lip of the roof. Muscles stand out in his forearm as he holds both of our combined weights with an ease that is absolutely unfair. His face is suddenly very close to mine, upside down from my perspective. His breath brushes my cheek, warm in the cool rooftop breeze. The faint scent of cedar and ozone curls around me. For a moment, the whole city goes quiet. We're suspended there, caught between sky and street, neon and shadow, and all I can hear is my own heart beating and the rough edge of his breathing close to my ear. Tobias. His voice is low, barely more than a growl for me alone. Stop running blind. Sorry, I manage, because my brain is apparently stuck on autopilot sarcasm. Didn't realize we were holding a safety seminar right now. His grip tightens for a second, like he wants to shake me and doesn't. Then he leans down, closer, until his lips are almost at my ear. They're not coming to arrest you, he murmurs. His breath is hot against my skin, words scraping along my nerves. They're coming for your head. The world fractures again. The future slams into me in jagged flashes, me on my knees on some dark floor, a gun pressed to the back of my neck, me running into a crossfire, chest exploding with heat. Me bleeding out in an alley, alone. On repeat, in different corners of the city, the same constant, death. Fast, slow, messy. Pick a flavor. In the sliver of timelines where I'm not dead, one detail stays the same. He's there. Sometimes he's dragging me away from a blast. Sometimes he's standing between me and a barrel. Once he's shoving me behind him as he takes the hit instead. And my stomach lurches so violently at that image that I tear myself out of the vision. Reality slams back in. The rough texture of the wall under my fingers. The burning in my shoulder, his hand like a shackle and an anchor both. I can't tell him any of that. I don't even know how to begin. So instead, I bare my teeth. Great pep talk, I say hoarsely. 10 out of 10 for terrifying clarity. His eyes search mine, as if he's looking for something particular. Whatever he sees there makes his mouth flatten into something like frustration. I'm trying to keep you alive, he says. It's almost a snarl, but not at me. At the situation maybe. At whoever put me on that list. Yeah? I swallow, my throat dry. Funny way of showing it. You work for the people hunting me. I work for the department, he corrects. Not for the ones who bought your head. The ones who bought my... Nope, not unpacking that now. He hauls me up with one clean pull, muscles flexing. My boots find the roof again, solid and blessedly not empty. For a second after he lets go, I sway closer to him than strictly necessary, momentum carrying me into his space. We're chest to chest. His heart is still steady, the bastard. Up close like this, I see something new in his eyes, not just focus, but worry. Genuine bone-deep worry, aimed directly at me. It hits my defenses like a stray bullet. I rock back fast, breaking the contact, putting space between us before I can do something stupid like lean in. My jacket feels hot where his hand was. My skin buzzes under it. Thanks for the catch, I say, words sharp to hide the way my voice almost cracks. Really, very heroic. Now if you don't mind. Before he can answer, a renewed chorus of shouts rises from the lower levels. A stun shot ricochets off the metal rail near us. Instinct screams at me to bolt. The part of me that just saw a dozen ways to die that don't involve him, pushes hard in the same direction. I turn, and run. I launch myself toward the next roof, this time making sure the distance is survivable. Glass booms under my landing. I don't look back, but I can feel Jared's gaze on me like a hand between my shoulder blades. Every cell in my body is yelling at me that he might be the only thing standing between me and a very final end. And still, I run. I don't trust him. I can't trust him. But for the first time tonight, I'm not entirely sure I trust myself either. By the time I make it back to the highways, the city feels like it's trying to wash itself clean of me. Rain comes down harder, turning the elevated lanes into slick ribbons of light. Neon bleeds across the wet asphalt, every headlight and hollow billboard smeared into long, shaking streaks. Cars hiss past in layered streams, stacked on different levels like the city couldn't decide which way was up and just said yes to all of them. My bike shudders when I gun the engine, splashing a fan of water behind me. I'd picked it up from a courier stash garage 3 levels down, a backup ride, one of the little secrets we use when clients are dangerous or the cops are in a mood. Right now, everyone is in a mood. Wind claws at my jacket, throws cold drops under my collar. The container is still strapped to my back, hitting between my shoulder blades with every bump. I still don't know what's inside, just that my life got set on fire the second I agreed to deliver it. It's almost funny. Almost. Traffic thins as I push toward the outer rings, away from the bright shopping plazas and into the industrial arteries. The city takes on a different face here, fewer hollow ads, more cargo haulers, fewer sleek sedans, more grimy work trucks. The smells shift from fried food and perfume to wet concrete, oil, ozone. Behind me, a dark bike holds position 4 lengths back. I don't need to look to know who's on it. The presence is enough, steady, heavy, like a storm cloud on 2 wheels. I weave through a cluster of slower cars, making space, testing him. If Jared wanted to take me down right here, there are a dozen easy ways. Nudge my back wheel. Call in a drone strike. Box me in. He doesn't. Instead, every time I switch lanes, he adjusts. Not to cut me off, but to hold a bubble around my blind spots. A courier's instinct says he's hurting me. Another part of me. The part that remembers shock bolts that missed by inches and a hand grabbing my jacket before I could fall. Says it looks a lot like protection. I hate that I noticed that. Rain streaks across my visor, the familiar rhythm of droplets a thin curtain between me and everything else. A big sign looms ahead, its bulbs half dead, District 7. Heavy industry. The road splits, one branch upward toward a main freight route, one swooping down into an older section that was supposed to be decommissioned years ago. I angle down. The lane narrows, edges crumbling. The neon doesn't reach this far, the light is harsher from old sodium lamps and the occasional security flood. My band buzzes once, then gives a faint error ping. Connection weak. City net coverage, low. Perfect. No cameras. No live feeds. Fewer ears. The old factory sector rises around me like the skeleton of some dead beast. Tall brick walls, broken windows, rusted smokestacks jutting into the night. Ivy and old scaffolding claw over everything. Some of these buildings used to make things the city needed. Now they just stand there, waiting to be torn down or repurposed for something shinier. I slow near a chain-link gate that's hanging half off its hinges. A faded sign, its warning text long since washed away, flaps in the wind. I cut the engine to a low growl and nudge the gate with my front wheel. It squeals, protesting, then swings in just enough to let me slip through. I roll into a cavernous lot shadowed by an old warehouse. The rain doesn't quite reach under the eaves, so the air smells more like dust and less like drowning. I park the bike near a row of dead loading docks, engine idling. I don't have to wait long. Jared's engine whines lower as he pulls in behind me, then cuts off with a final throaty rumble. For a second, there's only the drip of water from the broken gutters and the faint tick of cooling metal. I swing off my bike, legs a little more wobbly than I'd like to admit. I unclip my helmet and yank it off, pushing my wet hair back. My wristband glows red in the gloom. Like an accusation, I walk toward the yawning mouth of the warehouse. Its big doors are open just enough to suggest invitation, or ambush, depending on how optimistic you are. Right now I'm operating at a solid not at all, but I go in anyway. Inside, it's a cathedral of rust. Tall metal shelves rise in rows, half empty, half loaded with crates wrapped in dirty plastic. Old machinery crouches in the corners, wires hanging out like guts. One flickering strip of light on the ceiling does its best, throwing everything into a stuttering half-shadow. My footsteps echo. So do his. I turn when I reach the center of the open space, putting my back to a stack of crates so there's at least something solid behind me. My heart is doing a weird staccato that has nothing to do with the run here. Jared steps into view a moment later. Without the highway wind and the swarm of drones, he looks different, less like an untouchable executioner, more like a man who has been chasing someone across a city in the rain for hours. His hair is damp, darkened, and clinging near his temples. Drops shine on the line of his jaw before falling to the collar of his uniform. His chest rises and falls steady, but I can see the tension in the set of his shoulders. He stops a few meters away. Close enough that I can smell him. Far enough that I could, in theory, bolt. In theory. I lift my chin. If you're going to kill me, I say, voice sharp to cover the shake, just do it. But you're going to tell me why first? My words hang there, sharp against the quiet. He watches me. His eyes are darker here, less reflective, more human, and not at all comforting. For a heartbeat, I see the situation from the outside. A wanted Omega. cornered in a dead factory, facing the city's new favorite weapon. Then Jared exhales, and something in his posture shifts. It's subtle, a loosening, a lowering of some internal wall. He takes one slow step closer. "I'm not here to kill you, Tobias," he says. "I'm here to keep you alive." A humorless laugh scrapes out of me before I can stop it. "Yeah? Could have fooled me. You've been on my tail since the magline." "If I hadn't taken the call," he says evenly, "you'd already be dead." By the time I intercepted, a liquidation team was gearing up. Red level warrants at that speed don't end in small cells and fair trials. Liquidation team. The words land like a weight in my gut. These aren't the bounty hunter rats from the tunnel. These are the ghosts the city sends when it wants something erased. "Why?" I ask, throat tight. "What did I do? I'm a courier. I break speeding regulations and coffee budgets, not whatever this is." He looks at me like he's measuring how much truth I can take. His jaw works once before he speaks. 3 months ago, he says, before I took command, the head of Zero Control disappeared. I know that part. Everyone knows that part. There were rumors for weeks. He ran, he was taken, he ascended to the clouds and became a traffic camera. Nobody ever said murder, but everyone thought it. Officially, Jared continues, he went rogue. Unofficially? The files are a mess, gaps, deleted logs, tampered footage. He pauses, and a list of potential witnesses marked for containment. "You're on that list." Cold spreads out through my chest, dull and heavy. "Witness," I echo. "Witness to what?" "I never." The lie dies in my mouth before I can even form it. "Because I have seen something." The memory hits me sideways, like my own flash sight turned backward. It was late. Later than I usually took jobs. The client had paid extra for no questions, no delays, and my rent was due. The streets around Zero Control's main tower were quieter than usual, the air tense in a way I'd written off as my nerves. The package I carried was small, heavy for its size, sealed in double black wrapping. I didn't ask. You don't stay a courier long if you ask. As I cut through a side service road, shorter than going around the front, I saw the van. Unmarked. Engine idling. Parked too close to a side entrance for coincidence. The door opened, and 2 men in Zero Control armor stepped out, not the usual patrol gear, but heavier, darker. Between them, they half led, half dragged a third figure. His hands were bound. His head was bare. I recognized his face from the news feeds. Seen it 100 times in polished interview segments and stern press briefings. The then commander of Zero Control. The guy who signed the orders, gave the speeches, promised safety and control. His lip was split. There was blood on his collar. "Move," one of the armored men hissed, shoving him toward the van. They weren't gentle. The flicker of my future sight came and went, uselessly flat. Whatever this was, it was already decided. The commander's gaze swept the alley as they forced him inside. For a second, his eyes caught mine where I sat frozen on my bike in the shadows. I don't know if he recognized me. A courier, a nobody. But something in his face changed, a flash of something like apology. Or warning. Then the van door slammed. Tires squealed. It was gone. I sat there with my helmet half on, hands numb on the handles, heart slamming against my ribs. I told myself it was an internal transfer. Some secret operation, none of my business. I delivered the package. I went home. And when, a week later, the city announced the commander had vanished, under suspicious circumstances, I did what everyone else did. I shrugged. I moved on. I didn't tell anyone what I'd seen. Until now, I hadn't even let myself call it what it was. I realize I've gone quiet. My fingers have curled into fists at my sides. My eyes sting in a way that has nothing to do with the dust in the warehouse. Jared is watching me with that too sharp gaze, like he can see the flashback playing across my face. "You were there," he says softly. Not a question. I swallow. My throat feels like it's full of glass. "I saw him, I admit. Your old boss. They were supposed to be his own guys. Same armor, same insignia. No insignia on the van, no plates. They didn't want records." The guilt I've been ignoring for 3 months surges up, bitter and hot. "I thought if I just stayed out of it." "They found out you didn't," Jared cuts in. His voice is still calm, but there's steel under it now. "There's a log entry mentioning a courier seen near an unauthorized transfer that night. No direct ID, just a description and a route, but someone higher up marked it. Loose end to be monitored." Monitored, I repeat. That's one word for it. Those bounty hunters? He says. The liquidation team I intercepted? Those aren't my people. That's someone using the department's tools for their own purge. They needed a crime big enough to justify erasing you. So they created one. They attached a red-level warrant to your name, and waited for the net to eat you. The warehouse feels smaller suddenly, the shadows thicker. So it's not zero control framing me, I say slowly. It's someone inside it. Someone who thinks cleaning their mess means taking my head off. His silence is answer enough. You're the only one who can testify to what you saw, Jared adds. You, and whatever trace data I can still recover from 3 months of accidental file corruption. You're not a loose end, Tobias. You're a threat. Wow, I say, and my laugh comes out ragged. I finally make someone's top threats list, and it's for something I didn't even do on purpose. He steps closer, just one pace, but it's enough that his presence wraps around me again, solid and grounding. I told you, he says quietly. I'm not here to kill you. I meet his gaze. There's no way for me to know if he's lying. My future sight doesn't care about motives, just outcomes. And in every path that ended with me still breathing, he was standing there. I hate that my instincts finally line up with that. And you're the only one who can blow this open, I say. Is that it? His mouth curves, not quite a smile, more like a grim acknowledgement. Looks like we're stuck with each other, he says. There's fear coiled in my chest, tight and cold. But under it, to my own horror, something else stirs. Relief. If you'd told me this morning that my best chance at surviving the day would be teaming up with the city's scariest Alfa, I'd have laughed in your face and then sped away very fast. Now standing in a dead factory with rain ticking against the metal roof and a red-level warrant still glowing on my wrist, it doesn't feel funny at all. It just feels inevitable. I lean back against the crate stack, drag a hand over my face, and let out a slow breath that trembles more than I want it to. Okay, I say. You've dumped a lot of terrible news on me. I think it's only fair I contribute some of my own. Jared's brows lift a millimeter. That sounds promising. It's not. I hold up my wristband, watching the red glow pulse. You're not the only one cheating. His gaze flicks from the band to my eyes. There's no judgment there, only interest. It somehow makes this harder. I swallow, tongue thick. You asked how I kept choosing gaps in your net, I say. How I picked routes your surveillance couldn't predict. The truth is, I didn't pick them. Not exactly. He doesn't interrupt. He waits, quiet, the full weight of his focus on me. I hate how much that makes my chest tighten. When I was a kid, I continue, I used to black out sometimes, just for a second. Teachers thought I was faking. Doctors called it stress episodes. I huff a humorless laugh. Street racers just called it an advantage. I glance past him, at the shadows pooling around the rusted machines. It's easier than looking him in the eye while I admit this. When my adrenaline spikes, the world fractures, I say. I see multiple versions of what's about to happen, like ghost copies of the next few seconds, all of them at once, different paths, different ways I can move, different ways I can die. I let that hang there, hear the echo of die bounce off the metal rafters. Sometimes there's a path where I don't, I add. Not always, the good ones are rare. I grab the least awful option, and hope my body can keep up. That's how I survived race crashes, near misses, bad jobs. It's not skill. I grimace. It's a curse that got bored and decided to be slightly helpful. Silence stretches for a beat. My heart thuds loud in my ears. I see mostly bad futures, I finish. The good ones are rare. There, out of my mouth and into the open, where it sounds even crazier. I brace for the usual reactions, disbelief, suspicion. The kind of wary, disgust omegas get when they're too strange to neatly file away. I ready a joke, a deflection just in case. Jared doesn't give me the chance to use it. He studies me, expression unreadable. But his Alfa presence doesn't spike with fear or revulsion. If anything, the air between us steadies, like he's just slotted a missing piece into a puzzle. That's how you dodged the stun fire on the bridge, he says slowly. And the alley with the gas. And the trap ladder. My mouth quirks despite myself. Surprise. I'm not actually psychic. I'm just extremely allergic to bullets. The corner of his lip moves. Too small for a full smile, too large to be ignored. It does weird things to my stomach. How far ahead can you see? He asks. Seconds, I say. Maybe a handful if things are really bad. It burns out fast if I push it. Nosebleeds, migraines, wanting to puke my soul out, that fun stuff. It's not some cool superhero power. I lift my wrist, wiggle my fingers. It's more like living with a very pessimistic movie trailer playing over reality. And yet, he says quietly, you're still here. I don't know what to do with the note in his voice. Respect, maybe. Or the realization that I've been dancing on the edge of his tactical models all night, and he kind of likes it. He looks at my band again, then closes the distance between us a little. Not enough to crowd, enough that I can see the specific shade of gray in his irises. You understand what this means, he says. If I have someone who can see the immediate field that far ahead, and I can read the larger patterns. He doesn't finish the thought. We make a good math problem? I offer. We increase our odds, he corrects. Significantly. I snort. Of dying creatively? Of staying alive long enough to drag the people hunting you into the light, he says. And yes, maybe dying creatively later. If you insist on being difficult. The tiniest bit of tension breaks inside me at that. It's absurd how easily he slips in and out of dry humor without changing his tone much at all. He shifts his weight, scent wrapping around me again in a way I'm trying very hard not to notice. We'll need to move, he says. There's a data node nearby. An old relay hub the liquidation teams forgot when they started scrubbing files. If we can get your band synced through there, I might be able to overwrite your status, long enough to get you off the execution queue and onto my supervision list. Supervision, I repeat, wrinkling my nose. Sounds so sexy. It comes with fewer bullets, he says. Think of it as an upgrade. He reaches out, palm up. It takes me a second to realize he wants my wrist. Everything in me tenses. Instinct, habit, pride. Letting an alpha touch your band is like handing them a key to your throat. I hesitate anyway. This changes my status? I ask. Yes. From kill on sight to under my authority, he says. I grimace. Not sure that's better. His gaze meets mine, steady. It keeps you breathing. Annoyingly persuasive argument. I grit my teeth, take a breath, and lay my wrist in his palm. His hand is warm and calloused, fingers closing around the band with a firm, careful pressure. Heat flares along my skin where we touch, that alpha buzz humming under my flesh. My traitorous omega instincts purr like I just stepped into a heated blanket. Behave, I mutter under my breath. To myself, to my instincts. To him, I'm not sure. He doesn't react, but I see the faint flicker of amusement in his eyes as he taps a sequence into the band's manual override port with his thumb. The red glow on the screen sputters, then shifts to a deep amber. Status, restricted. Handler, Commander J. Kane. Action, monitored. My head swims weirdly at the sight. I hadn't realized how loud the red felt until it bled into something else. You're now officially under my observation, he says. Technically you're still flagged, but any kill order now has to go through me. Funny, I say. I thought that was already the unofficial policy. You made it unofficial by running, he says dryly. Now it's on record. I pull my wrist back, rubbing the skin where his fingers were. It still feels warm. And for the record, I add, fighting the urge to fidget, don't even think about saying I smell good. He pauses midway through checking his own band. Looks up slowly. I wasn't going to, he says. Good. I fold my arms. Don't. A tiny beat. I'll say it later, he replies, almost absently. Like he's just noting a task for the future. My brain hiccups. Do not say it later. The look he gives me is maddeningly neutral, but I swear there's a glint at the edge of it now. We should move. I hate you, I grumble, because it's easier than admitting my face is probably red. No you don't, he says, already turning toward the warehouse doors. You're still deciding. The node turns out to be 3 blocks away, buried in the base of an old administration building that now houses nothing but pigeons and bad vibes. We move through the industrial streets at a ground-eating pace, keeping to shadows and service alleys. The rain has softened to a steady mist, turning everything slick and reflective. My flashlight flickers now and then. Small warnings, tiny corrections. But the biggest danger seems to be losing my footing on a patch of moss. I should have known that meant the worst was saving itself. The relay hub is in the sub-level, a room full of old server racks humming softly, emergency lights casting everything in red tones. Dust motes dance in the air. Jared gets us in with an override code, and a firm kick to a decades-old lock. He crosses to the main console with the confidence of someone who's broken into secure systems before, and not regretted it. I hang back near the door, heart still doing uneven things in my chest. How long does this take? I ask. A few minutes. He hooks his band to the console with an ancient cable, thumbs moving over the cracked surface of the touchpad. System prompts flash in the air. I'll reroute your ID signature through my handler tree, scramble the direct kill access, and pull any private tags attached to your file. All of that sounds illegal, I say. It is, he agrees calmly. So is framing a courier for a manufactured crime and putting a bounty on his head. I'm choosing my crimes carefully. Can't argue with that logic, I mumble. The world lurches. Not physically, internally. My vision fractures without warning, harder than it has all night. 4, 5, 6 overlapping images slam into me. Me standing at this door, me on the floor. Me shoved against the server rack. Jared's hand grabbing my collar, sparks from down. I shove off the wall and hurl myself sideways toward Jared without thinking. The door explodes inward, in a hail of splinters and light. Something heavy and fast slams into where I was standing a half second ago, a bullet or a stun slug. I don't stick around to check. I crash into Jared, knocking us both behind the nearest row of server racks. The console beeps in protest as his cable yanks taut. Shouts flood the room. Target in sight. A voice barks. 2 tangos. 1 is Commander Kane. Confirm authorization to engage. Confirmed. Another voice crackles over a comm. Liquidation order stands. Remove the witness. Contain the commander. Liquidators. The real ghosts. Just as Jared promised. Stay low, Jared snaps, rolling us so his body is between me and the open aisle. A stun round hits the side of the rack, sending a spider web of blue light skittering over the metal. I can barely hear him over the roar of blood in my ears, over the strobing of possible futures slamming one after another into my skull. Us pinned, us shot, the servers catching fire, the whole room turning into a metal coffin. I squeeze my eyes shut for a fraction of a second, force myself to breathe. Through the swarm of images, to look for the ones where we make it out. There, a path. Narrow and jagged and full of pain, but open. Left aisle, I hiss, grabbing his sleeve. 3 racks down, there's a gap. If we push through... He doesn't question me. He just moves. We explode into motion together for the first time, not hunter and prey, but something closer to what he claimed we could be. A team. By the time we hit the Undercity, the world above might as well be another planet. The air changes first. It's thicker down here, dense with dust and old heat, with the ghost smell of grease and electricity. The ceiling crouches low in places, opening unexpectedly into cavernous chambers where old train lines sleep under blankets of rust. Pipes run overhead and underfoot like veins, thick sweating things that drip warm condensation in slow fat drops. Our footsteps echo along a narrow service catwalk, metal grating ringing under our boots. Ahead, the tunnel yawns wider, swallowing our little pool of light. Behind us, somewhere above, I can still hear the phantom ringing of gunfire, feel the vibration of the liquidator's rounds hitting steel. We didn't have time to clean up that mess. We barely had time to breathe. Explain to me, I pant, why all the good hiding spots in this city come with tetanus. Because the people who built them never thought anyone would need them, Jared says. His voice is steady, but I can hear the strain in it now. They assumed everything would stay controlled. Predictable. Yeah, well, surprise. My wristband glows amber in the gloom. Under surveillance. Under his authority. Under a death sentence. Unless we make this mad dash count. He leads the way along the catwalk, turning down a side passage that looks exactly like the last 4. If we weren't here to blow up a high-level conspiracy, I'd be a little impressed by how thoroughly the Undercity wants us lost. The system doesn't reach this far, he adds, glancing back once to make sure I'm still on his heels. No cameras, no live feeds. The liquidation teams hate it. And we're coming here. Why? I ask. Because if I were a coward hiding from my own crimes, he says dryly, I'd pick a place the city isn't watching. The passage spits us out into a broad, round chamber that might once have been a hub station. 4 old train tunnels branch off in different directions, their tracks half buried under debris. Thick conduits crowd the walls. A few dim safety lights cast everything in sickly orange. And in the middle of the space, like he's been expecting us, stands our welcoming committee. He's not in armor. That's the first thing that throws me. The man waiting for us wears a sleek dark coat over a city-issue tactical uniform, the Zero Control insignia stitched into his shoulder with a little extra flourish. Just enough to say I belong without technically breaking uniform code. His hair is pale, cut close, slicked back with a precision that looks like it should be behind a desk, not in a tunnel. His face is the kind I've seen in too many press conferences, controlled, polished, forgettable until you notice the eyes. His are a cold, flat blue. No shine. No warmth. I recognize him from old news feeds, the man who always stood just behind the previous commander to the left. The one people called the spine behind the throne. The deputy. Well, he says, voice smooth as the coat. I didn't expect you to get this far down the maze, Kane. 2 heavy drones hover behind him like steel vultures, bigger than the patrol models we've been dodging up top. Their rotors give off a low, menacing thrum. Weapons ports glow a faint, ugly red. My skin crawls. Deputy Director Hale, Jared says. His tone is almost polite. Almost. I was wondering where you'd slithered off to. Busy, Hale replies. You'd be surprised how much work it takes to keep the city safe from traitors. His gaze drops to me. It lingers. Up close I can see the exact moment recognition flares in his eyes. Not for my name, but for the role I play in his tidy little nightmare. Courier, he says, like it's an insult. You should have stayed in your lane. I was prepared to let your little indiscretion go. But then you had to live, and run, and drag our new commander into it. He sighs, like my survival has inconvenienced his schedule. You wanted the seat, I say, forcing my voice steady. So you took out your own boss. Allegedly, he says calmly. Many things happen in the city in the dark, some of them necessary, some of them opportunistic, all of them better left unrecorded. He gestures vaguely with one gloved hand. And you, he continues, had the misfortune of being in the wrong substreet at the wrong time. A courier on a bike, an ID ping, a security flag, a loose end that should have been cut 3 months ago. Rage scratches at my throat, hot and sharp. You had him dragged off by his own men, I say. Like trash. Like a liability, Hale corrects. He'd grown soft. The department needed new blood. Stronger resolve. You saw something you shouldn't have. But your existence didn't matter until Kane started prying at old files. He flicks his gaze back to Jared, lips curling. You disappoint me, he tells him. You were supposed to be an upgrade. Efficient, compliant. Instead, you come down here chasing ghosts. That's the problem with ghosts, Jared says. You can't bury them under paperwork. He moves subtly, shifting his stance, putting his body just slightly in front of mine. And you overreached, Jared adds. Red level on a courier with a noise complaint record? Liquidators deployed without full oversight? You might have hidden the old commander's disappearance, but you can't hide this. Not once I drag you into the light. Hale laughs once, short and humorless. You think you're in a position to drag anyone, anywhere? He asks. Look around you, Kane. No cameras, no witnesses anyone listens to. No recording devices active. He nods at the drones. Their weapons ports hum louder, charging. This, Hale says, is where both of you disappear. An unfortunate accident in a condemned zone. You pushed too far, made too many enemies. The city moves on, clean, controlled, predictable. My vision fractures. The chamber splits into versions of itself. In one, a drone shot takes out my knee. In another, Jared falls with a bullet in his chest. In a third, the tunnel roof collapses from an errant explosion, burying us all. All bad. All final. I dig in, teeth clenched, forcing my focus past the worst of it, hunting desperately for anything that isn't an immediate end. A path flickers. Thin, ugly, painful, open. Left, I hiss, fingers ghosting toward Jared's sleeve. 3 seconds from his hand signal. You take high, I take low. We go for the conduits behind the drones. He doesn't look back at me. Doesn't nod. But his hand shifts just slightly on his sidearm, the only sign he's heard me. Hale's smile sharpens. Goodbye, Commander, he says. He lifts his hand. The moment breaks. Now. I shout. I dive right, sliding on my side across the dirty floor as the first heavy drone fires. A hot beam scorches the air where my head was, slamming into the concrete wall and sending up a spray of shrapnel. Jared moves with a speed that would have impressed me any other day. He lunges left, boots finding the narrow ridge of an old maintenance ledge, using it as a springboard to launch himself up toward the pipes that run along the ceiling. The second drone swivels toward him, guns whirring. I fling myself into its blind spot, heart pounding, flash sight flickering through futures. Like a flipbook, me getting shredded, me getting clipped, me making it close enough. I grab a length of rusted pipe off the floor and, with all the grace of someone making this, up as they go, ram it into the drone's underside where fragile swivels meet armored casing. The impact sends agony screaming up my arm. The drone jerks, its targeting stuttering. Its beam slices wild across the room, catching a conduit over Hale's head instead of Jared. Sparks rain down. Hale swears, stumbling back. Above us, Jared uses the distraction. He swings up fully onto the maze of overhead pipes, moving like he's been training for this particular brand of insanity his entire life. His alpha instincts read the terrain as fast as my visions do, picking the strongest routes, the most stable lines. "Keep it off me," he calls, voice flat with focus. "Trying not to die over here," I yell back, grunting as the drone bucks under my makeshift crowbar. The other one reorients, its sensors blinking like furious eyes. Hale stands between them, coat slightly singed, face tight in a way that finally cracks his polished calm. "You are inconveniencing me, courier," he snarls. "Happy to return the favor," I snap. A beam shots toward me, my sight splits, me getting hit, me ducking, me rolling. I choose roll, hitting the ground and tasting blood when my teeth cut my lip. The beam grazes my shoulder anyway, sending a white-hot bolt of pain down my arm. Above, metal groans. I glance up through gritted teeth just in time to see Jared drop. He falls from the pipes like a controlled meteor, landing behind Hale with a bone-jarring thud. His arm snakes around the deputy's neck in a chokehold, his other hand locking Hale's wrist, forcing his gun down. The drones hesitate, their sensors whirring, confused by friendly fire parameters. Jared's voice is a low growl against Hale's ear. "Call them off," he says. "Now." Hale rasps, struggling. "You won't shoot me," he chokes. "You need me for your righteous little crusade." "No," Jared says. "I need you talking. Breathing. I don't need you comfortable." He shifts his grip, applying enough pressure that Hale's legs buck. The deputy gasps, hand twitching. The drones stand down half a degree, weapons dipping. That's my sliver. I stagger to my feet, lungs burning, and sprint toward the nearest old control pillar, a rusted interface unit. The city stopped using decades ago, but never fully decommissioned. Its panel hangs open, wires exposed like nerves. "Buy me 20 seconds, I shout. 10, Jared says. 15, if you're lucky. I grab a loose cable, fingers shaking, and jack my band straight into the system. My vision swims, not with futures this time, but with old code leaping to sudden life. Jared's override from the relay hub piggybacks through, tunneling up into the parts of the network Hale thought he'd scrubbed. A prompt flashes across my visor. Emergency record mode. Source, field command. Tag, high priority. "Say cheese," I whisper. Behind me, metal clatters. Hale struggles, spitting curses. Jared's voice slices through, cold and precise. "Deputy Director Elias Hale," he says. "Confession accepted." He squeezes. "Not enough to crush, enough to hurt. Tell the system why you ordered a sitting commander kidnapped," Jared murmurs. "Tell it why you turned liquidation teams on a courier who saw too much. Or I let it mark you as non-compliant, and we see which of us the drones decide to obey." Hale chokes out a laugh that turns into a cough. "You think you can?" Jared digs his thumb into a nerve at his throat. Hale shudders. "Talk," Jared says. "Maybe it's the fear. Maybe it's the pressure. Maybe it's the fact that deep down people like Hale love the sound of their own cleverness." He talks. He spits out details like broken teeth. How he ordered loyal officers to escort the old commander to a black site. How he falsified reports, deleted logs, marked me as a potential leak. How he used Zero Control's liquidation protocols to clean up his mess. Every word is being recorded, stamped, tagged, shot up the line through the old control conduit and into the central net. My band pulses as data surges. The drones ping once, then twice, their IDs flashing uncertainly in my peripheral vision. A new alert overrides the old one. Subject, Hale, Elias. Status, internal threat. Action, contain. For the first time the drones pivot, not toward me, toward him. Hale realizes it at the same moment I do. He goes still in Jared's arms, breath ragged. "What?" he starts. Jared releases him just enough to shove him forward, out of his hold, and into the center of the chamber. "Elias Hale," Jared says. Voice formal now. "By authority of Zero Control, you are under arrest for treason, conspiracy, and the unauthorized deployment of liquidation teams against civilians." He meets my gaze for a fraction of a second as he says, "civilians." The drones descend, clamps snapping open like mechanical hands. Hale's composure shatters as they latch onto his arms, overriding whatever command authorization he thought he had. He screams something about mistakes, about being loyal, about necessary sacrifices, but the system doesn't care. It has his confession, his tags, his orders. And now it has him. My wristband buzzes. Status, cleared. Charges, null. Flag, witness, protected. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. My legs suddenly feel like they belong to someone who's run through half a city, and fought off 2 assassination attempts in 12 hours, which, to be fair, they have. Jared watches the drones haul Hale toward one of the side tunnels that still connects to functional access shafts. Only when they vanish does he let his shoulders drop a fraction. "Congratulations," he says, turning to me. "You've just helped topple your first high-ranking corrupt official." I bark out a laugh that turns into a cough. "Do I get a badge?" He considers me for a maddening moment. "No," he says. "You get to stay alive. For now." "Great prize pool," I mutter. But the sarcasm lands softer this time. Silence settles over the tunnel hub, broken only by the distant hum of machinery. My heart is still hammering, but in a different way now, less frantic, more disbelieving. I'm not off the hook. There'll be investigations, fallout, power plays. But for the first time since my band flashed red on that highway, I'm not one bad second away from a bullet. I look at Jared. Really look. His jaw is dust-streaked. There's a smear of someone else's blood on his sleeve. His hair is a mess. He looks tired and dangerous, and more real than he did on any billboard or internal memo. And he's still here. "You know," I say, voice quiet in the big space, "you could have just asked for my number. If you wanted an excuse to chase me all over the city." One of his eyebrows lifts a fraction. It might be the most expression I've seen on his face yet. "You wouldn't have given it to me," he says. I think about every time I've run from him tonight. Every time I've still, somehow, ended up in his orbit. "I'm not sure," I admit, a smile tugging at my mouth despite the aches, despite everything. "Maybe." His gaze dips to my wristband, now glowing a calm, almost innocent white. "Well," Jared says, "you're under my supervision now." Plenty of time to test that theory. And for the first time, the weight in my chest feels less like a countdown, and more like the start of something. The city looks different from this high up. Maybe it's the clean air currents that sweep around the rooftop of the administrative tower, carrying the warmth of the evening and the faint scent of ozone. Maybe it's knowing I'm no longer a blinking red dot on every surveillance map. Or maybe it's just that for the first time in what feels like forever, I'm standing still without waiting for gunfire. Officially, I'm free. The charges, fabricated, weaponized, stacked like bricks on my name, are gone. Wiped. The system spat out a formal apology that sounded like a toaster trying to express remorse, but it counts. My band is clear. My slate is clean. And the kicker? They gave me a job. Not in Zero Control, let's not get carried away, but as a liaison between courier networks and emergency operations. Someone who knows the streets, the shortcuts, the blind spots. Someone who can move fast and think faster. Someone who's already survived the worst the city could throw at him and still managed sarcasm. I almost turned it down. Then I remembered rent exists. Now I'm here, on a rooftop, in a warm wind. Under a sky that's more purple than blue as neon crawls up from below. Cars streak along the layered highways like rivers of light. Drones hum far above, orderly and boring. Peaceful. Well, I say, leaning on the railing. I guess this is the part where you say, "I told you so." Jared stands next to me, hands in his pockets, shoulders relaxed in a way I've never seen before. The sunset paints the sharp lines of his face in gold and violet, and for once, he looks less like the city's most intimidating handler and more like someone who almost died with me in a tunnel. Someone who kept me alive anyway. "I'm not saying that," he replies. But I can hear the hint of a smile hiding under the words. I look over at him. Really look. And freeze. He's smiling. Not the ghost smirk I've earned here and there. Not the dry twist of amusement. He allows when I annoy him in a specific, carefully calibrated way. A real smile. Small. Quiet. Honest. It drops something warm and dangerous right into the center of my chest. So, I say because silence suddenly feels too loud. What now? He tilts his head slightly, considering me with that steady, unreadable gaze that makes my heartbeat go places I haven't approved. You're not a target anymore, he says. Not a case. Not an assignment. That part I know. But, he adds. I brace myself for the but. With Jared, but could lead anywhere from, I still need to monitor your movements. To please stop stealing motorcycle parts from evidence storage. His eyes meet mine fully. I haven't decided what you are instead. My breath catches embarrassingly fast. Oh. I say brilliantly. Not a target, he repeats. But not done. His voice dips lower. Softer. Not something I plan to walk away from. There's a heat under my skin that wasn't there a second ago. A pull, like every nerve in me suddenly leaned toward him without asking permission. I try to smirk, but it comes out uneven. Do me a favor and don't start the hunt again. His lips curve. No promises. My heart does something that is definitely unsafe at this altitude. We stand like that for a while, side by side, watching the city glow up from below and fade into stars above. Wind brushes through my hair. His shoulder is a quiet warmth near mine. Not touching but close enough that I feel the pull of gravity between us. For the first time in a long time, the future doesn't flash in jagged splits in my vision. No fractured deaths. No dark alleys. No countdown clock ticking above my head. Just the city breathing. And me breathing with it. Funny. I've spent my whole life running. Races, streets, jobs, ghosts, myself. Always forward, always fast, always away from something. But now that I'm standing still, something clicks into place. Not a fracture. A beginning. A point on the map. The point. The moment everything stops running backward. The moment something new starts. The moment someone finally catches up. And I realize, with a strange, shaky calm settling in my chest, the starting point isn't when you run. It's when someone finally reaches you.